Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. I've been thinking about making this video for a while, and I probably recorded it like 4 or 5 times. But there's so many things here that to talk about. So let's talk about the Billy Mitchell effect here and how it relates to other lawsuits. The biggest one being the Smash JT Alyssa Mercante feud. And if for those of you who are not familiar, Smash JT is in a lawsuit right now that was filed by Alyssa Mercante for initially defamation. Does that sound familiar? Well, guys, let me start off by saying, and let me be absolutely clear, I'm going to try to be impartial as I can as a human being. I'm not a lawyer, right? I'm not going to give you business or financial advice, right? These are just my opinions based on my experience. I'm just a layperson. If you get yourself in these kind of situations, you need to call a professional and listen to them, right? Don't be like Carl Jobs, who hires lawyers, gives them $600K, and doesn't listen to them. Don't do that. Get good professional help. So in this case, I agree probably 0% with Alyssa Mercante and her political points of view. I don't know her as a person. I don't like the things that she does online, like pretending she's a Latina, right, when she's not. You're taking away opportunities from from real Latinas out there. How does this work, right? This point of view where you claim to support these minorities and then you take their jobs away. What's going on with that? And Smash GT, I've known since the Amico days. We started out battling back in the day, and then we got to talking. And I would say he's a friend of the channel. We're cordial, right? I agree politically more with him, in most things, not everything, but in most things probably. But I'm a libertarian at heart, and even with that, it's I'm going to tell you what you need to know, not what you want to hear, right? And people want the show, right? People want the crap show. People want battle. People want blood. People want back and forth, right? There's no limit. There is no budget for the show. They want to see as much drama as possible, especially in their courtroom. We can see how popular these things are. It sells, and there's a couple of things that are very unique to this case. One of them being the amount of money, $75,000, a year salary for Alyssa Mercante. Now, in the grand scheme of things, guys, when it comes to actual, defamation lawsuits, this is really a drop in the bucket, right? It really makes it different. Just the drama on its own and how much money it would generate for channels. I mean, not for Alyssa's because she can't get an audience to save her life. But Smash JT could probably make that, at least in a couple of years, if not less. Right? He could generate that money if you wanted to settle this. But the problem here is that the audience, right, people at large that follow this stuff, they have no budget. Let me ask you, how much money do you want Smash JT to spend? Right? What's your limit? This thing, if it goes on for 2 years, you're looking at well over $100,000, right? So what do you want Smash JT to spend in order to prove Alyssa wrong? 100,000, 200,000? How much money do you think he's going to raise for those kind of bills? How much money do you think the audience is going to put up? Right? They don't care, and they're fickle. Look what happened to Carl Jobs. Carl Jobs started off with this lawsuit for cheating scores, ends up losing the lawsuit on something else, right? And people hate him now. I think even Smash talked about this, how, the fact that he wasn't as transparent as he could have been, to put it in the best way possible, how does it affect other people trying to raise money in these type of cases too? Because the plaintiff in this case, the unique part, what makes Alyssa such in my opinion, right? And people don't feel this way. Even Smash JT thinks he's got a slam dunk a lot of times when I hear him talk about this. What makes her such a dangerous opponent in court is that she has pro bono lawyers, which means she has unlimited resources to the court, that are activists. They're looking to pin something on Smash JT to make a political point of view, right? And that's just my opinion, to prove a political point, I'm sorry. So they have no budget, right? They can go as long as possible. And in these cases, this could be a situation where These guys try to drag it out and change things and amend things and ask for extensions just to bleed Smash JT dry, right? Make it 3 years, make it 4 years, how long these things get to settle. And you have people out there, including Smash JT, saying this is a slam dunk. She doesn't have a case, this and that and the other. And in the meantime, they're talking about it online, right? This is the strategy that these people could be pulling off, and he can't fall into the same trap that Carl Jobs did, where he's still talking on the internet about this case, and I wouldn't, right? There's a lot of things that I wouldn't do that Smash JT has already done. I wouldn't be talking about the case. I wouldn't be talking about her, because when it comes to being the defendant on the other side, he has to be right 100% of the time, right? Alyssa Mercante can make all the allegations she wants. She just changed it in court. It's going to cost her $200 to make an amendment. Every time she spends $200, it means like $3,000 for Smash JT, because he's got to pay for lawyers. She doesn't, right? Allegedly, right? We don't know that for a fact, but it doesn't look like these guys are charging her money. Regardless, guys, there's only so much you can spend, and you have a man here. Now, if Smash JT was a single person, a single guy, I'd tell him, hey, go to war. I'll watch the show, right? But in good conscience, since I know he has a family, he has a home, he has things to lose, there comes a point, even though the amount is small, it's just not worth it. But that's not what YouTube wants to hear, right? YouTube, that's out for blood, they have an unlimited budget for you, right? And if you lose, then they'll turn their back on you. That's reality. Look what happened to Jobs. Jobs was one of the most respected people out there on YouTube, and now he's getting clowned, right? And it could happen to anybody. Nobody likes losers, right? What do they say? Victory has many fathers, but defeat is an orphan. And it's not about that. It's not even about being right. You could prove a moral point in court. Let's say he does go to court and he wins and he spends $300,000. And out of those $300,000, let's say that he got half from the audience. So he spent $150,000 to prove a moral point. No, I'll take the $150K. I'm sorry. I got to think about my kid. This is college money, right? This is buying a better home. This is a lot of things. No, just absolutely not. But YouTube is a different monster. It really is. You see things on YouTube that you would never see in real life. I would never, if I get sued, I'm not going out there and telling everybody, hey guys, I got sued. I try to settle it in the background, make it as painless as possible. Now, the problem is that everybody that's backing Smash JT is not telling him these things. They're at least publicly, right? I'm talking about the show, guys. I'm not talking about real life. In the show, they're going to be, you go for it. You do this, you do that. But how much money do you want him to spend again? I mean, how many of his resources are you willing to put up, right? The people that want you to go to war, they don't have a budget. They don't care if you spend every last single dime. They do not give a shit. But unfortunately, the man has a family. The man has a home, things to lose. And a lot of people think it's a slam dunk. Let me tell you, it could be as easy as he's going to go to court, either California or New York, right? Pick your state. It really doesn't matter, because both states are some of the most liberal states in the nation. And how long do you think that it's going to take for these lawyers to bring up the fact that Smash JT owns a Tesla and probably voted for Trump? About 15 minutes. Now, let's just imagine that he gets one of these Donald Trump TDR judges. They're going to get him on something. They're probably not going to get him on defamation, but they'll get him on something else. The judge will make it a mission to make an example out of him. Right? So there's just so many more ways that you can lose money for Smash JT than Alyssa. Alyssa can, okay, you have this MAC laws, whatever. But she can just amend it and just say, okay, no, we're just going to stick to these other charges. And that's the other point that people miss. She's just not suing for defamation. If it was just defamation, it would be one thing. right? You could feel pretty confident about that, whatever. But your opinions, right? YouTube opinions, even Smash JT's opinions, do not count. They're not opinions from a judge. Those are the opinions that count. Lawyers' opinions count, right? You can't be like Carl Jobs, where he thinks that his opinions are the only ones that count. He's smarter than the judges. He's smarter than everybody else. So you don't know what's going to happen in court. There are no guarantees, guys. There are no guarantees. And when you have a family, you have to look out for them. No, I know a lot of you, this is not what you wanted to hear, but it's what you need to know. And if Smash JT was in front of me, this is what I'd be telling him to consider too. Unfortunately, in the era of YouTube we're in, just settling would be, people would just turn on him. But I think there are settlements that could be positive for everybody, right? What if you end up the settlement with a pay-per-view, mano a mano, the fight that she wanted, or, you have live debates, going back and forth, making pay-per-view, where she can get a good cut of it, and everybody can end up happy. The audience, and everybody else, she settles the case and we're done. I wish there was more options than just this binary. Because percentage-wise, even if Smash JT wins, he has a lot more to lose. And that's a gamble I would not take, and I wouldn't tell any of my friends to take. So those are my thoughts, guys. I'm sure that's not what you wanted to hear, but it's what I would tell my friends if they were in this type of situation. All right, humans, I will catch you on the next one. Take care.